Happy 420 to millions of Americans who smoke marijuana, weed, ganja, or reefer, as our parents used to call it. The medicinal plant has gone from an illicit drug purchased from some dude in high school to a multi-billion with a B dollar industry. It's so massive that legal marijuana sales in the U.S. are expected to hit $33 billion this year alone. That number could rise to $84 billion by 2028. 18 states in the District of Columbia have legalized the sale of recreational marijuana. In 21 states, many of them conservative, it is legal for medical purposes. A new CBS poll shows that 2/3 of Americans support legalization. The House passed a bill to decriminalize marijuana, but it's expected to fail in the Senate because, shockingly, the vast majority of our white geriatric conservative senators refuse to do what the public wants them to do. It's what they do. Meanwhile, communities of color are left to pay for that inaction, as they are disproportionately policed and imprisoned for marijuana offenses. And it will not surprise you to learn that people of color remain in the minority when it comes to profiting from the booming legal marijuana business. According to Insider, white men comprise 70% of the executive level positions in some of the largest publicly traded cannabis companies. Only 7% are black. With me now, Fab by Freddy, hip-hop pioneer, street artist, filmmaker, cannabis advocate, and founder of Be Noble, which is sold in partnership with Curaleaf, and my friend Fab. It is so good to see you. And I want to go there because the thing about it is black people are disproportionately policed, for selling weed and are disproportionately in prison right now for having sold weed or even possessing it. But black people are not the ones making the big money from this industry. Why?
Well, I want to first say, great to see you, Joy. Happy 420 to you, to everybody in the legacy game that's been on the front lines, all the bud tenders out there. Yes, the fight is real. I learned a hell of a lot in the film I made a couple of years ago, Grass is Greener, on Netflix, about the business, about the history, about the culture. And I'm happy to say that, I was motivated by the film I made, jumped into the business, started a brand, partnered with Curaleaf called Be Noble. We're selling in 10 states right now, a 2-joint pre-roll, which is also going to give back 10% to help expunge records and fix some of the harm. This was inspired by a gentleman in my film that was given a 13-year sentence for 2 joints of cannabis. So what we did is we had packaging with messaging, a 2-joint pre-roll to inform people about some of this nonsense that we're trying to fix, but it's also high-quality cannabis. So the fight is real. We're also in 10 states and also available in New York in medical dispensaries. So the fight is real, and we have a long way to go.
I mean, and look, I grew up in Denver, Colorado. I'm from Brooklyn, but I grew up in Denver. I mean, Colorado is like a boom town for weed. But the thing is that you notice like 5 Points, which used to be the hood. Like 5 Points was like where black people lived, and not rich black people, like working class black folks live, is now completely gentrified, and it's weed that's doing it. You have guys who are coming from California, from Silicon Valley. They have cash, and so they're able to jump into this business, whereas a lot of people who have records for having grown and sold weed to those same kind of guys can't get in the business because they don't have the capital and they don't have the clearance because you can't have a record. How do we change that?
Well, how we change that is if the MORE Act, the Marijuana Opportunity and Reinvestment an Expungement Act, if that gets passed, then we can begin to fix, once again, a lot of the harm. The system that we have now is individual states come up with their own regulations. Some try to be more fair than others. New York State, I'm happy to say, recently passed legislation. We have the most progressive legislation in the country, and hopefully, as is planned, lots of folks of color are going to get a shot to sit at the table and get a piece of the pie. But the fight is real, is all I got to say. So we can't let up. And once again, it's a disproportionate distribution of equity in this business, and it needs to be fixed and addressed. And Be Noble is all about doing that.
And I want to note that there are some, black folks, in addition to Fab, who are involved in this. NBA legend Al Harrington, a former Knick, a former Denver Nugget. I forgive him for being a former Pacer. We're going to go ahead and let him be that, too, has a business as well. But so there are high-profile people in. For somebody who is not high-profile, they're not a Fab Five Freddy, they're not an Al Harrington, is there a walk us through, what do you have to do to get into this business?
Well, what you need to do first and foremost is understand what the regulations are in your state. And so once again, they vary from state to state. In the many states that have adult use cannabis, there's a whole broad spectrum of what can happen and what cannot. Luckily, like I said, partnering with the behemoth in this game like Curaleaf that wanted to do the right thing, make an equitable deal with us, and then, you know, walk through, like, the compliance dynamics are different. But in terms of what the business opportunities are, one needs to lean in, get on that internet, see what's going on in your state. And if it's not an open door or as open as it needs to be, get at your representatives. We got to be loud. We got to make noise. We got to really articulate and like educate ourselves about what goes on and the change that needs to happen. We need to get at our legislators and fight the fight. It's real.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I will note that in Illinois, there's a community that's actually using weed sales for reparations. Like, there's a lot of good that can be done when it comes to the weed game. Happy 420 to you, Fab Five Freddy. Thank you very much. Really appreciate you being here. And that is tonight's Reidout.